are leading to new regulatory reviews that are going to be happening over the next year, which I'd like to bring to your attention. The FTC is likely to review the interagency report on nutritional standards for foods marketed to children and youth. That's an interagency report led by the FTC, but includes the FDA, the Department of Education, I don't remember who else, setting what are the nutritional standards of foods that can appropriately be marketed to kids. Advocates are beginning to ask that these standards be adopted as the standards for what can and should be marketed to children, both in the television environment and potentially in the online environment. The FCC is asking for comments in its notice of inquiry by the end of January, including comments about marketing to children and youth, and I can promise you that these issues will be raised by the advocacy community, so the kinds of ads you have in your online spaces will be scrutinized. Congress has asked the Institute of Medicine to recommend nutritional standards for front-of-package nutritional labeling and use of nutritional logos and claims on all food and beverage products in the United States in the coming years, so they're beginning to set nutritional standards. And lastly, all of this is raising questions about the philosophical underpinnings of regulation of marketing to children and youth, and that the old model from the television era is about to be shattered, is my prediction. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Susan Zelman. Susan is Senior Vice President, Chief Advisor, and System Consultant for Education Policy at the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Just show. How was that?
Okay, so just
This is your first thing. You'll just click that.
okay.
You got it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm now in my second year at the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It's the policy, funding, and regulatory arm of the public service media system. But prior to that, I spent 10 years as the superintendent of public instruction in the state of Ohio. And one of the reasons why I wanted to come to the corporation was that I really saw the power of public service media as being an ally in educational reform. And one of the outcomes I would love to see from this meeting is that we all work together, develop more strategic private-public partnerships to really align our work to a public service media agenda. Next slide. Going to click. Sorry. It's okay. Well, yeah, right. I'm so incredibly coordinated that I thought of having to hold the microphone and click at the same time. Okay, great. Well, at the corporation, we think about aligning to educational policy in terms of 4 different functions. One is that we invest in content, not only what's on air, but of course what's online and what's on the ground, because we represent 1,200 radio and TV stations in our communities, and we sponsor a lot of on-the-ground community-based activities. We also say that we need to build the capacity of all learners, children, educators, parents, and caregivers to use this new digital media as a way to promote the emotional, social, physical, and intellectual learnings of all in our system. And we want to cultivate a system that values research and evaluation and really helps to promote innovation. And actually, I believe that a lot of the innovations now that are being created in new digital media, because we can, in fact, control process and outcome, can really, in partnership with developmental psychologists, cognitive psychologists, and brain research, really do a lot to figure out and understand more how people learn. And we can, in fact, develop better products and services as a result of a partnership with the research community, which is one of the things I'll be working on at the corporation. And also, how do we engage the community in focusing in on the role that new digital media can play to be, in some sense, a disruptive technology and change our mental model about what schools need to look like in the future. And I predict what's happening to journalism now will be happening to our traditional mental model of schools sometime in the next 5 to 10 years. And I want to be there to, in some sense, prepare educators for what to expect, but most importantly, to improve the learning outcomes of children and to really make sure that education is truly a civil rights for all children. Next slide. So what we say at the corporation is that we are in fact trying to create a new day for learning, a new culture of learning, a nation of learners. And in fact, what we advocate for, which I thought the slide from my Sesame Street friend was so terrific, was a 360-degree curriculum funding content across multiple platforms, and that learning is anytime, anywhere, any place, and it's very self-directed, and it's from the time the kid gets up in the morning to the time the kid goes to bed at night. And that actually we are going to break down the sort of stereotype between learning that goes on in school and learning that goes on in other informal educational situations. Next slide. So we love the electric company, and in fact, you know, your demonstration of what you, how you thought about Sesame Street in terms of multiple platforms is the same way you have thought about the new electric company, which we help to fund, and it's incredibly rich, engaging curriculum for kids 6 to 8 years old. It has a broadband site, and I really like the new video and games because it encourages kids to construct their own products and videos and so forth, which is an important new digital media skill. And in doing so, we hope that they also not only understand how to use the content, but they know something about the technology itself to increase their new digital media literacy. And that, of course, we have a lot of outreach in terms of things that you've done with our stations, in terms of performances throughout the country, but also the very rich after-school curriculum and that you also provide, and the online professional development, which I'll talk about a little while in a minute. So our second sort of goal is developing the effective teachers and leaders, and in doing so, we use the content that is on TV to really help teachers align that content to new academic content standards, to performance assessments, to curriculum models. And we have wonderful examples of this throughout our system. PBS Teachers Online, which my colleague you'll hear from in terms of Bob Lippincott and all the great things they're doing there. E-learning for educators, Teachers Domain, which now has a very creative partnership with the Massachusetts Department of Education. They've rebranded Teachers Domain, and in fact, it is linked to Massachusetts content standards, and they've increased, because of this state partnership, they increased by 11,000 teachers in Massachusetts, the number of teachers who are using that particular content. Next slide. But what we have done as part of our Ready to Learn grant is that we have taken the content from our TV programs, Sesame Street, Electric Company, Super Y, Martha Speaks, etc., and we are using that content to develop 3 online courses, and the latest course is going to be around the after-school curriculum of Electric Company, so that we teach child care providers, home daycare center people, early childhood educators, after-school providers, how to use the content online as well as on air to meet the learning objectives of that particular content. And we're getting incredible good feedback from these people who have really not had the opportunity to learn how to use new digital media, and we are going to be developing more intense studies to show, in fact, with training and mentorship, we can, in fact, increase the learning outcomes of poor and underserved kids because of the professional development we're doing for their providers. Next slide. We are also working in partnership with the Chief State School Officers, which is the Council of Chief State School Officers, the 50 state superintendents like I was, to develop something called Project Learn. Project Learn is really sort of a platform where states can, in fact, share data on a variety of different sort of variables, but that also that on these platforms, online professional development for teachers can be shared across states, as well as a variety of different curriculum materials, assessment materials that are coming out of the public service media system.